Today I have three jiu-jitsu brothers from Triune, Mark, Josh, and Derek. Triune is a nonprofit located in Santa Clara off De La Cruz Boulevard. The school's main instructor is Josh, which is a third-degree black belt. Mark also helps teach a few days out of the week, whom is a black belt. Derek is a four-stripe purple belt who's in and out of our dojo due to his high-demand career as a marketing manager. He travels all over the U.S., but still gets his mat time wherever he travels. Mark, let's start with you. So can you tell me about your upbringing, where you grew up?
Yeah, I was born at Stanford, and I lived in East Palo Alto, where my grandpa's house was. So it was like any other family who were just trying to get things together. There was 3 different families living in one house. I just remember during that time, it was pretty dangerous during the 90s of living in East Palo Alto. I wasn't really allowed to go outside or make friends. Mm-hmm. And my mom made sure that she kept me and my brother out of trouble. So she brought us to the west side of Palo Alto, which is university. And it was really interesting. I remember having friends that had maids and stuff. Oh. And I remember getting picked up by my mom and then coming back home where it was super dangerous, It gave me 2 perspectives of life.
Right.
And being around my grandfather at the time, he worked at a greenhouse. He was a veteran, World War II veteran. He was a really good man. He was a POW and a Purple Heart. So I really feel like I get a lot of grit from him.
Did you have any brothers or sisters growing up?
Yeah, I have an older brother. He's a little different than I am. He's very bright. I remember trying to get him toys to play with me and stuff, but he was into music. He was playing classical piano, and we're just so opposite. I remember we finally shared something in common, and it was wrestling.
Josh, tell me about your upbringing.
Yeah, so I was born in the Philippines, and I came here when I was 4 years old to the United States. I was born in 1981. We lived in Sunnyvale with my aunt. Then my parents were able to save up money and got a place in Santa Clara.
Okay. Your parents, what did they do?
My dad was a construction worker in the Philippines, from what I remember. Then when he came to the United States, he did assembly jobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I have 3 sisters, 1 brother. My sister that was born before I was passed away. I never got to meet her.
How old was she when she passed away?
I believe she was 2.
Oh, wow. That's really hard on the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, how was the discipline in the house?
My mom was more of the disciplinary. She did more of the discipline. My dad was more of the loving, caring type.
Okay. How was your upbringing, Derek?
Yeah, so I was born up here in San Jose, and my family, after I was born, we stayed here for about 8 months or so, and then we moved down to San Diego. I lived there until I was 18. Then I came back up here for college, back up to San Jose. So I've been here ever since. Pretty typical upbringing, though. My dad had different jobs growing up, but I mostly remember him doing real estate, loans, mortgages, and things like that. My mom worked mostly with different school districts and universities and junior colleges, just doing executive admin work.
Did you have any siblings?
I have an older sister. It was just us 2. Very normal. I mean, stuff that other families deal with too, but not anything that's too unusual.
Yeah. Mark, tell me about your parents.
I'll start with my dad.
Okay.
He was more of the old school where he was the provider, paying for the bills, having a house and a roof over our heads and food. He was pretty hard at times, but I think since he's gotten older and we've gotten older, he's gotten a lot better. We actually talk a lot now. He's a good dude. My mom is a really sweet lady. She's super nice. She's always been supportive, always made sure that I had everything that I needed. Mm-hmm. She was the wrestling mom. She bought all the snacks and stuff, and she would set up during our meets. She's just super sweet. If you ask Josh, her mom and my mom are good friends.
Okay.
And so is my dad and his dad.
Okay,
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. You guys have that all in common, your family bonds.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So what kind of values or discipline did they instill in your family?
They really instilled being honest, being a stand-up person, doing the right things, and working hard. I watched my mom Work very hard. She's always been a very big figure in my life. And my dad, at times, he can be one too.
How about you, Josh? What kind of values did your family give you?
I want to say that my parents, they taught me to just be strong. Whatever I wanted to do, they were very supportive. And I think they just want me to like just be happy and to live my life. That's how I look at it.
How about you, Derek?
Yeah, just to add on to that, it's definitely a hard work ethic that they put into myself and my sister. They're different than the typical Filipino parents growing up because they're first generation Filipino Americans. They had a similar upbringing to a lot of our friends. Their parents immigrate here. I'm actually a second gen, so being raised by them, there were a lot of different things that are normal in Filipino culture where there's these expectations of you, the stereotype, like they want you to be a nurse or a doctor or engineer or something like that. They gave my sister and I the freedom to see where we wanted to take our careers, like what we wanted to do for fun and activities. They just wanted to break some of those norms raising us. But they did want us to work hard towards whatever we're doing and apply ourselves. So if we messed up in school or we're lazy about something, like, yeah, we definitely hear about it. So, yeah.
I bet. Let's move on. Mark, you talked about your community, the neighborhood that you grew up in. Can you explain in detail?
Oh, like in Palo Alto?
Yeah, EPA.
During that time, it was pretty much murder capital at that time during the 90s. So the crack epidemic was really high. People were dying pretty much every day. I think there was a point where a lot of people wouldn't want to stop at certain places because they know that either you'll get shot or people will try to sell you drugs. And I remember we used to go to this kind of cul-de-sac. We called it the Dice. And till this day, people know it as the Dice. And it's very interesting because back then you would find like junkies like just dead.
Wow. So it's pretty dangerous.
Pretty much, yeah.
Any drive-bys or anything like that?
Growing up, I remember someone running over my dad in front of me.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember my mom taking me to the flower shop. So back then in the 90s, they had a flower shop right across the street from a liquor store. And my dad ran in, and he was just bleeding, you know. And then it's crazy because I brought it up to my dad, and he didn't think I would remember something like that. But, you know, it's some trauma stuff. So, of course, he'll remember. That was the first time I ever, like, experienced, like, violence.
So was he just crossing the street? What happened?
Honestly, I was too young, and I didn't really understand it. My dad had 9 brothers.
Oh.
So they were out there gooning. And like during that time, if you do something wrong or look at somebody wrong, this was the 90s. Like gang affiliation was like there. It was like the birth, you know?
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories about EPA. You said that your mom pretty much sheltered you from that.
Yeah.
So she didn't want you to go play outside.
No.
Did you have very many friends growing up in that community?
I had one friend across the street from me. His name was Tim, and we would go watch CMC together. And I remember watching... I think it was like Keith Sweat it first came on, and I was like, what the heck is this? Yeah, there was a bunch of songs. I was like, oh, this is cool, because it was like the hip-hop station at that time.
Okay, cool. Josh, how about you? What was it like growing up in your neighborhood? What were you like as a kid?
Growing up in Santa Clara, the neighborhood, it's like there was really nothing to do around that area. I was pretty much just the wild child. I would always be getting into fights. We'd have backyard fights. You remember those backyard fights?
Yeah, I remember going to a party.
I've done a lot of crazy stuff when I was a kid. Yeah.
And who'd you hang out with during that time?
I hanged around with a buddy of mine named Walter, Neil, and Matt de
All right.
Guzman. Yeah.
Right.
That's actually Derek's cousin.
You've hung out with his brother, right?
Yeah, we went to high school together.
With his cousin also.
Yeah. His brother and his cousin knows like a bunch of stories when my high school days.
So how was that neighborhood that you lived in?
Santa Clara?
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty safe, but it was just boring. It was just like really nothing much to do. As kids, we would go out and ride our bikes, meet up with other kids, and then maybe get into fist fights with other kids. Or if we had a problem, we would always go to this one guy's house, my friend's house, Michael Ansegay, and he would always have like backyard garage fights because he would have the house. We would just go into the backyard, and if we had a problem with somebody, we'd just duke it out in the garage.
So like boxing?
Yeah, just like straight up like a street fight. You know, he sometimes would go with friends and just go all the way down to the east side, San Jose, and be goons over there. Yeah.
Derek, where'd you grow up?
Grew up in San Diego. Part of the reason that we went down there is because my parents, they're pretty much born and raised up here in the Bay Area. And shortly after I was born, they were concerned with the area. Like they were worried that I might be influenced by like gangs and things like that, because we have a lot of like family friends and like cousins and stuff that got involved with that kind of stuff. And then there was also just the growing population. It was getting very crowded. And to be specific, the area that I grew up around mostly was the North County area. So it's like Carlsbad, Oceanside. And before I could say that and people wouldn't know where it is, but now that Legoland's there and then pro skating got popular and stuff, like
Right.
more people are familiar with it. At the time I moved down there, it was like a typical suburban neighborhood, but we were also one of the only ethnic families in the neighborhood that we moved into. I remember a story that my dad said when we moved in, like after my sister and I grew up a little bit. I think they had someone that came to the house and they were asking my dad, "Oh, do the people that live here, are they home or something?" Because I guess they thought he was like a worker or something that
And
was
not the
like
owner.
working on the house. Exactly, yeah. But yeah, for the most part, like just growing up in a suburban area, it has its own set of problems. You don't deal with the stuff like the gangs and all that around there, but there's definitely, as a minority in those areas, it definitely has its own things that you deal with growing up. As a kid, like that wasn't really much of an issue. We play in the neighborhood with the other kids.
Yeah.
Just like normal, play games, ride bikes, things like that. But as you get older, there's people grow into cliques and it becomes more apparent if you're a different ethnic background, you don't necessarily fit in. I know it's not like that for everybody, but from my experience and a lot of other people I know that grew up in an area where they're a minority, it was a very similar upbringing. I mean, we got through it, but it's just a different experience. Being that area, that's like where Tony Hawk and like Bucky Lasek and some of those guys are from, all those pro skaters from back in the day. Everyone's like into skateboarding and like surfing. If you weren't doing any of those, like you were an outsider, you were a poser or whatever it is. Like, so yeah, so if you didn't do that, you weren't cool. So there's always those types of things. As people got older, you get made fun of. It definitely became more apparent as I got older.
Okay. You surfed over there.
Yeah, I did surf growing up there, and then I did quit once I started driving and stuff. I got more into cars. I recently picked it up a couple years ago again, but
Yeah.
it's a lot harder learning now than it was back then. So
True.
yeah, it's still a lot of fun though.
Heck yeah. Mark, what hobbies or sports were you into as a kid?
I always wanted to be like, I always wanted to do karate.
Did you do karate?
No, I didn't. I was into swimming.
Okay.
Yeah. My mom used to take me to the Palo Alto Rec Center. They had a swimming pool and they had a diving board. I used to jump on that thing all the time. It was pretty fun.
So that's the only sport you did as a kid?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much, yeah.
How did you stay out of trouble?
My mom, she's a super saint. If it wasn't for her, I think I would be in a lot more trouble.
So she pretty much sheltered you.
Pretty much, she tried to protect me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, what type of hobbies or sports were you into as a kid?
As a kid, was playing basketball, and then I was also doing boxing, judo, freestyle wrestling.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
how did you get turned on to all those sports?
It's just something that I wanted to do. I had my cousin Jason and Justin, they were doing judo as well. I think it all started out with that. I was always fighting anyway, right? So I figured to get some skills behind what I was doing. It kept me out of trouble, even though I was the troublemaker.
Did your parents try to keep you out of trouble, or did you just...
They tried, but it was me that was pretty much the troublemaker. I was the little kid that like every parent did not want their kids to hang around with, because I was like that kid. If an adult told me something, I'd be like, "Fuck you, old man," and then run away, and then all the other kids would run and shit.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Man. Oh, man. That is funny. How about you, Derek?
Yeah, I tried to do a little bit of everything growing up. I was a video game nerd for most of my younger years. We had the best games in the 90s, so obvious, but
Yeah.
yeah, but my parents wanted me to try different sports and activities just because you can't just stay home and play video games all day, and then two, to try to make more friends and stuff. So I tried at least every ball sport, at least like baseball, soccer, football, things like that. And I never really stuck with them. Maybe I played them like 1 year and then that was it. But I did do taekwondo when I was younger. I did bowling. I was like in a bowling league as a kid. That one was fun for a couple years. And then I did football, like Pop Warner football for 3 years, which was fun at the time too. And then I started playing basketball between elementary, middle school, and that probably stuck with me the longest. Like I still play to this day, not nearly as much as when I was younger, but I still love basketball to this day.
Right on. Let's go into your teenage years and some of your adulthood. Any high school experiences, sports, fights, or finding yourself? Mark?
Yeah, I followed my brother around a lot. And so I didn't really know where I fit in because a lot of my friends were all like football players and basketball and all the other sports. And I tried, but I wasn't good. You know, I was totally honest with people too. I remember I tried basketball and they gave me the ball. I was like, I don't know what to do with this, dude. I'm going to run as far as I can with it and I'm just going to pass it, even though I could have just shot it. But I wasn't good. But I remember asking my brother, it's like, what can I do? And he was just like, just join wrestling with me. Right. And I think that's where it really started. I never really had anything in common with my brother, but this was actually something I really enjoyed doing with them. Uh-huh. And coming to find out, like a lot of Josh's in-law, like Gabe and Pat, ended up being one of my captains, and they were like in the varsity team. So like I couldn't really do too much besides wrestling at that point.
How many years older was your brother than you?
He was 2 years older than me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he was already in high school wrestling.
Yeah.
And then he brought you in. That's really cool. Wrestling's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Tell me about the conditioning.
It was tough. We did Olympic running, like we did this circuit running, where we were in a line and one person in the back would sprint to the front.
Yeah.
We would do 4 miles, then we would go into the weight room and then we'd do our circuit training. And after circuit training, that's when wrestling really starts.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my coach and his assistants coach, they're very good at what they're doing, pushing the kids. I think having the wrestling background, especially because my coach was an alternate, he was an Olympic alternate, it gave us a lot of pride, just knowing that like the guy that we're being taught is like high caliber. It gave us that feeling that if we're out there wrestling, we'll be capable to hold our own.
What high school was it at?
I went to Wilcox,
Cool.
Santa Clara.
All right. How about you, Josh? Any experiences in sports? Were you in sports in high school, or did you do any?
I did a bunch of like the PE sports that they would do. They had a PE course one time of wrestling, and I did that. But it was mainly after school programs that I would actually focus on. The PAL programs that I used to go to, they had wrestling, judo, and boxing, and those were the ones that I would do after school. Like high school stuff, I was just getting into a lot of fights. I remember my freshman year, one of these kids in the classroom was like behind me messing with the back of my head. And I got so annoyed. I remember picking up my binder and turned around and just smacked him over the mouth. That was like my first fight ever in high school.
Wow.
But even before high school and middle school, I got into a lot of fights too.
Why do you think you got into a lot of fights?
Because it was boring in Santa Clara. So, like I said, we would do backyard fights, get into a bunch of crazy stuff. And then it just, like a snowball effect, carried over the years.
Do you think because you were a smaller guy that they tried picking on you?
Yeah, definitely. I knew because I was small, I was probably going to get picked on. But in my head, I was like, okay, if you don't pick on me, I'm going to fight you. And I'm not going to be a victim, you know what I mean? I'm going to keep fighting you even if I lose until I'm satisfied. That's how I was when I was growing up. Like, it's not over until I decide it's over. Yeah.
Did you get kicked out of high school because of your fighting?
Yeah, I got kicked out of my junior year.
Okay.
Yeah, freshman, sophomore, and then junior year, they said, we're not having it anymore. Yeah.
So they sent you to another school.
They sent me to Wilson. It was like where all the bad kids used to go. Yeah. Yeah. I remember a teacher one time was telling me before I left, she was like, oh, you're not going to come back. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay. I remember finishing in Wilson, and then my senior year when I came back, first thing I ever did when I came back was go to that same teacher, and I was like, I'm back, you know, like all crazy. And then she was like, get out. And then the first day is coming back, I got sent back to the principal's office, and he was like, what are you doing? It's your first day. And I played it off like a good kid. All I said is that I'm back, dude. Like, but really, I was just like, I'm back, motherfucker. He like,
Man. Oh, that's crazy. That's funny.
yeah.
How about you, Derek? What high school did you go to?
When I was down there, first off, I started at Carlsbad High School, and then I transferred to El Camino across the town.
So El Camino in San Diego.
Yeah, so Carlsbad High School, Carlsbad, obviously, and then El Camino's in Oceanside, just the next town over.
Did you play any sports there?
So I was still playing basketball back then. It was like the sport I really stuck with. But I always felt I was at a disadvantage. I did try out all 4 years, and I never made the team for different reasons. Some reasons I agree with, some I don't. But regardless, I was still always playing like at the park or just playing pickup. But that was really it.
Was there any major turning points in your teenage years?
Yeah, I think when I stopped doing wrestling, I remember getting kicked out of school. I got in a fight. And I remember not knowing what to do with, because I competed a lot, and just being with my team, it hindered me. I just didn't know what I was going to do with my aggression. I took a lot of pride being in a wrestling team with like my brother and his friends. And I remember when I got kicked out of school, this dude broke into my house and
dang.
he tried to poke my uncle. And my uncle's blind. I remember me and my friends went to Lick Mill. I remember Lick Mill. It's like where everything happens, bro. we all met up. It was the whole basketball team.
Yeah. You know what we would do? We would hide like
so.
weapons. We would hide weapons in bushes in case we got into some fights in the basketball courts. And so we would always hide like these little weapons, knives, whatever, in the bushes that we knew it was there in case something went down. Because a lot of times things went down.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So we all met up at the park, and we had this big rumble, and the cops came, and then I remember it happened again in front of my friend JR's house. And the next couple of weeks, it was just chaos. It was just like consistent. Like we just kept fighting these same kids over and over again. I know it sounds lame, but like it was over a girl.
It's either over a girl, money.
Yeah. I was young, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know any better. This dude had a girlfriend. We had the same class, and that's how it all started. And then I got called in, and my mom was there.
Oh, dang.
You know what I'm saying? It was my mom, dude. It was so like, oh man, it was so embarrassing. And all the teachers were all there, and they sat me down. They were like, hey, like, I heard that these kids broke into your house. Do you want me to expel them? And I was like, they're all seniors. I don't want to take that away from them. So I'll leave. So I left.
So what year was that?
That was my junior year,
Oh, wow.
when wrestling season was done. But the cool thing was that my coaches found out, and they still let me train with them. So it was all season for me. So yeah, that was one of the turning point for me.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, like I said, I was never like a bully, but I was always down to fight. I think one of the major turning points in my teen days that made me focus more into my martial arts was there was a time that I was at the Guadalupe off of the creek in Santa Clara, and I got into it with some random dude, and I'm not proud of it, but I took my knife out and almost stabbed him. Yeah, like I got into some pretty heated moment with that guy, and I just took it out and swung as hard as I could.
After that happened, what do you think?
I missed, he dodged, and then he just took off. And then, yeah, I started getting to thinking when I got home, what if I actually did? What if, you know what I mean? And I started getting like bad anxiety because of my actions. And then I really thought about it. And then I just said, you know what, I need to change. And I just focused on keeping my ass in the gym.
Yeah.
Right out of trouble.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You could have changed your life forever.
I mean, even till this day, I think about it. What if I hit them? Game over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good that it didn't happen.
What's ironic is that I'm into knives. I collect knives.
Yeah, we know that.
But I'm like, yeah. So definitely, I think that was a big turning point that I was like, you know what? I got to control my anger.
Yeah. Derek, any major turning points in your teenage years?
Yeah, I actually have quite a bit, and sorry for not elaborating in the previous sections, but yeah, my teenage years were probably some of my biggest turning points in life. Like I mentioned earlier, growing up down there, I had a lot of trouble fitting in cliques. That's every high school, but it is, like I said, as a minority, it is a bit different too. I think my first turning point was in middle school, coming from elementary. Everyone's just hanging out with their own people. People started going into their cliques and stuff. I was cool with most of the skaters. And then being that I played football, I was also cool with all the jocks. This is like what I wanted. I fit in with these guys. And then people get into their cliques, and then there's the girls. People care about being popular. You know, at the time, I thought that's like what I wanted, just like a lot of us dude growing up. And I was like, okay, if someone more popular than me wanted to do something, or if they wanted me to help them do something, yeah, I'd do that just to get accepted type of deal. In that phase is being that I'm from up here, I had a turning point because my family would visit here all the time. Hanging out with my cousins and my friends up here, it was just very different and more stuff that I related to. I came back and I was like, I'm wearing like skate shoes and like all these like different things. What we did have in common is we all listened to like hip hop. I'm hanging out with them and all their friends, and it's like they're wearing, at the time it's like Fubu, Echo, and Polo, all those brands, like K-Swisses shoes. I stood out and I was, wow, I feel out of place here with frost tip hair and stuff like that. I think what happened is I got really in touch with the culture up here because I'm born up here. I visit all the time. Like, why am I doing all this to try to fit in with all these guys down south? So when I came back, my whole thing changed. Like I was doing everything like how they were up here, and I brought that down with me. And being down there, I stood out even more than I originally did. I already was a minority, but then now that I had a different style and everything, some people didn't like that. So I lost a lot of friends that way. That was like most of my middle school years. Going into high school, I went in as an outcast a bit because of that. So yeah, all I did is I really just played basketball. And then I was like starting to become friends with people that I wouldn't think I'd be friends with because I just had more in common with them. So those first couple of years of high school and middle school were, this is who I am. And if people didn't like me for what it was, then that is what it is. I'm not trying to impress anybody or fit in anymore. Like I was over all the cliques and all that stuff too. But it did get to a point too where, just long story short, I did transfer high schools for different reasons. That's probably like the most rebellious phase I had with my parents, because most of the time I did get along with them growing up. They were pushing me so hard to be involved in clubs and sports and stuff. And I told them how it is. This is what I'm dealing with at school on a day-to-day basis. They had a great high school experience, and they still go back to their reunions like 50-something years later up here. And I'm like, I want that for myself too. So I did get what I wanted. I was able to transfer schools and spend my last few years like in a more enjoyable experience. Those last few years where I had another group of friends going into this school, which is part of what made me want to go there too. I was like, they were all there. I was like, okay, I get to be with them for my last couple of years. And I had another falling out with them too. It was over different stuff, like not the stuff that I was dealing with in my earlier years. It was like different kinds of petty issues, like high school drama. I was really concerned adjusting to getting into college. And I was like, I don't have time to deal with whatever it is that you have against me. But I was just so focused on getting into college and getting good grades. So yeah, those were some major turning points. It's just, I just never really fit in, but I had to eventually find out like where I did belong, what I wanted to do, and go from there. So I don't regret any of it. Like a lot of those lessons taught me things that I do nowadays. And if I didn't go through that, then it could have been a different outcome for me.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you into around the age of 18 and 20?
Oh, man. 18 to 20, I was kind of lost at that time.
Okay.
Like right after high school, because I got kicked out. Just unhappy with everything and how things played out for me in high school. I missed out on prom and graduating with my friends. So I carried that on until like I was in my 20s.
Did you have a job during that time?
No, I didn't. And if I did, it was like some like part-time job or contract. I remember I was like at Netflix for a little bit. All my best friends were all there too. So it was like kind of like a hangout spot plus a job.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'd had like just part-time jobs. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Derek?
Yeah, 18 and 20, I moved back up here to the Bay Area for college, and it was a lot of fun those first couple of years because I missed all my friends and family up here. So I get to come back and go to school here and see everyone again. At the time, I was really into tuning cars. So like I used to have a Celica back in the day, and there's a big car scene up here. So it felt right at home. This was also like the peak of the hyphy movement. So the parties were pretty crazy, and you just hear the music everywhere you go. So to be here and experience that culture while it's in the peak was awesome. But also the whole college experience too. Like I joined a fraternity my first year. I tried to be involved in as many clubs as I could just because of the lack of involvement I had in high school. And yeah, just soak it all in. But yeah, those are some fun years for me.
Awesome. So let's talk about the first exposure to martial arts or combat sports. So you had wrestling, correct?
Correct.
And did you have any other type of martial arts that you did?
No, just wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, just wrestled hard.
Josh, you talked about martial arts,
Yeah.
so let's go into that. Tell me about your experience.
So I started at 10, I started boxing through PAL boxing. And then from there, I also did PAL wrestling and PAL judo. It was not like consistent. It was like off and on, right? Since 10, then I did it off and on again in middle school. And then off and on again in high school. But in like 1999 is where I got into the MMA scene. And I was really focused on that.
Who were you under in the MMA scene? And tell us about that experience. And I know you told me about some cage fighting that you did.
Yeah, so in 1999, I was in the school called the NorCal Fight Factory. At the time, it was called Extreme Training Center, but it was before that, it was called NorCal Fight Factory. And it was under Dave Velasquez. He's the owner of Dark Horse right now.
How was training?
It's brutal, tough. So there'd be days where we would do our circuit training and then rolling and have cage fighting in the gym. And there would be days where he would bring out a bucket and he'd be like, okay, if everyone needs to throw up, you throw up in here and continue.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he'd make you work out hard until you lost everything.
Pretty much. I remember a time some knucklehead came in the gym, say, oh, I want to be an MMA fighter, blah, blah, blah. I remember Dave telling me, okay, roll with him. And so he was talking to me. So he was like, Josh, I want you to roll with him. And then I want you to put a rear naked choke on him. So
Right.
we're over there, we're rolling, and I got him in a rear naked choke. And this guy was already tapping. And I remember Dave was looking at me like, you better not let go or I'm going to choke you out. He even said that to me too. Because the guy kept tapping and I was like about to let it go. And then Dave was like, no, hold it. You put him out or I'm going to put you out. And then I remember just whispering in his ear, like, I'm sorry, dude. And I shit you not, the taps were like, it was taps, and then it became like punching my face to get that choke off of him. And then I just like, I'm so sorry, dude. And he went out. Yeah.
And so what was that supposed to prove to this guy?
I guess because he was talking too much crap. He's a big dude, so he took like the smallest one, which is me.
Yeah.
See how well you do against him. Yeah. And
Shut him up.
yeah, because a lot of people talk until it gets real.
True.
And then for me, it's okay, let's put you through hell, and if you come back, maybe I'll teach you. We'll put you through hell again. Oh, okay, he hasn't left yet? Okay, we'll teach you now.
So there was this entry that you would have to do and prove yourself before they would even start to teach you.
Yeah, I think it was crazy back then. It's not as it is now.
Yeah.
Like, for me, when I wanted to do it, it was like, okay, you really want to do it? Well, get in the cage. See what you got.
Yeah.
And it was like that. They didn't even really give me any instructions. They just threw me in the cage and, okay, we'll fight. You want to do this, then fight. And then we'll see if you come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, just to get my ass beat. And then finally, eventually, this guy hasn't left yet. Let's teach him. All right.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Derek, how about you? Any type of martial arts growing up?
Yeah, I did Taekwondo earlier. That's probably the one I stuck with the longest. I remember I had like a brief thing with Kendo. I like the swords. I didn't end up sticking with it. I did a little bit of boxing too, but it's mainly my dad had a bag in the garage. He used to do boxing when he was a teenager. I practiced like combos and stuff, but it wasn't like any formal boxing training. The Taekwondo I stuck with up until like blue belt. And I remember, I think the reason I quit was because it felt repetitive to me. I guess that maybe just felt boring to me, but looking back, I kind of wish I stuck with it because I was like, I have a couple more belts to go. And if I already know the stuff that the upper belts are doing, then what's keeping me from just getting it? But and then it's like jiu-jitsu is like very repetitive too. So it's just like a different discipline now that I'm older.
Correct. Okay. During your martial arts or wrestling, any early mentors?
My brother, first of all, he's always been pushing me. We would always wrestle after practice or when we're in the living room, just like doing stuff that we just learned. And we would just like scramble. Then there was like Pat and Gabe. They were big mentors to me. They would never let me skip practice.
And who are they? Just fellow wrestlers?
Yeah, they were my brother's best friends. And they actually lived in this neighborhood too. So if I ever did try to skip practice, they would be at my house. So like me coming home, you know.
Yeah, pulling you in.
Yeah, pretty much. But
No choice.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, cool. How about you, Josh? In your martial arts or all those things you did, judo, any mentors that stood out to you during that time?
Yeah, for me, I felt all my coaches were my mentors. Yeah, I didn't really have a favorite. I think each coach has had their views in certain things. And I just, even till this day, I always have that saying. Even when I do a post on Instagram, I always have that saying, always learning. So for me, I'm like a sponge. Whoever my coaches were, I just learn from them.
Okay.
It's like that too, even now at Triune, like when I have even lower belts help and teach, I'm learning from them too.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's good about our gym in Triune is that we have that bond where like everyone is learning from each other. Yeah.
Did you have any mentors with your sports or martial arts?
I had a few. For the sports, I didn't. It was like I just looked up to someone that was maybe pro. I remember when I was doing Taekwondo, like my dad was an influence for that too, because when he was a teenager, he actually trained here with the Ernie Reyes family. At the time, like Ernie Reyes Jr. was just a little kid when he was there. But like when I was like doing Taekwondo and playing football, like my dad was like a football star in high school, him and my uncle here at Wilcox. And I remember when I played football, he was like very into it too. It was his sport. He was like a mentor for that too. He got me interested in football when I was younger, which is what initially got me to do it. When I started playing basketball, I didn't really have a mentor. I looked up to certain athletes that I would watch on TV, and of course Jordan. There was a time where a bunch of my cousins all played basketball, like all the boys and the girls played for a few years. So I saw them as mentors too.
Cool. Let's get into the jiu-jitsu journey. Mark, tell me about when you started training BJJ and how you heard about it.
Oh, so it happened to me. I got BJJ'd. I was at my friend's house. We were like messing around. His name is Jeffrey Sana, and he wrestled with me too. So a lot of my friends, we all wrestled together. I remember Joffrey, he first got into jiu-jitsu, and I was like super wrestlered out. Nah, dude, not gonna be able to get me, you know? So I clinched with him. Like I got him in a throw. And then we started scrambling on the floor, and he got me in an arm triangle. And I was like, dude, I can't get out of this. Yeah, he took me out, dude. And out of that, I was like, this is it. And then I went to go find like a gym. I ended up at Smash Gyms in 2012. And I got striped up there with my white belt. And then I wanted something else. And nothing against them. They're great people. That's where I like met Ian. Shout outs to Ian. He's one of my really good friends from jiu-jitsu, kind of started together. So I ended up at Triune where I knew Josh was there, and a lot of the people from our neighborhood ended up here. And I just felt like this was where I wanted to be because it had a lot of presence of Santa Clara people.
When did you come here to Triune?
I think, when was it, like 2018 maybe? Yeah.
Something like that, maybe.
Something like that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I met Coach Stan, and then I walked in, and Amador was there, and he's all, "Oh, you like jiu-jitsu?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was out of shape too. Like I didn't roll for a while because like I was still doing college.
I think it was 2014, 2015.
Yeah. I remember walking in, I see Alex Blank and Amador. I tell him like, "Yeah, I've rolled before," and then Stan's, "Oh, roll with him." And it was Amador, and he like destroyed me, dude. I like ran out of the room, and I just threw up outside. And I was like, okay, this is what's up. And then I met Wayne and Derek and everybody else. So I just really felt a really big connection with this school.
Right on.
Yeah.
Derek, how about you? We'll skip Josh for right now. Tell me how you started jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I started jiu-jitsu in 2014, and a lot of it is just from being peer pressured because I take this for granted, but I've known Josh like maybe 10 years prior to me joining. And sometimes people are like, oh, I wish I met Josh earlier, blah, blah, blah. But like being friends with Josh and then that group of friends, like he mentioned his friend Walter, my cousin Matt, Wayne and Neil, like they're all martial artists and they've all been doing jiu-jitsu as well as other martial arts for many years. We'd always watch the UFC fights, and I liked watching UFC, MMA, and all that. And they were always like, "Oh, when are you gonna come try class?" All that stuff. And I was just like, "Oh, I don't know, like whatever." And then 2014 is when I actually made the jump. And being that Josh was already coaching here at Triune, it was like an easy choice to try it out. Also, I was like getting bored with what I was doing already. Like I would just go to the gym and lift and do cardio, and then I'd still be playing basketball. But I just needed something different. And it's like, well, I'm always watching the fights with these guys. Why don't I finally give it a try? I hit them up, and at the time, they were still down the street with the CrossFit gym. And I just remember my first class. I didn't have a uniform yet, obviously, but at the time there's a lot of OGs there. There was like Stan and Jimmy, and a lot of those guys have, Jimmy's running the gym in Texas. Everyone's in different places now because it was such a long time ago. But I remember not having a uniform, and I borrowed one from Wayne. And then the only loaner belt they had was a 4-stripe white belt. So I wore that, and there were some other students there that thought I had previous training, but it was my first day, and I just remember getting my ass beat by teenagers and like some of the other higher up like white belts. They did not take it easy on me, but there are also times where like Josh would have me do a drill and I'd just get swept really easily. Like anything that I thought I knew from watching the fights just went out the window. But
in your mind, you thought I could do that.
Exactly. But yeah, I was just so baffled. How is the smaller guy able to sweep me, or how's this guy able to take my back so easily, or just make me look like a fish out of water? And the mental part got me more hooked than the physical part, because the physical part was great, like getting in shape with the stuff your body's not used to. But just thinking about how this happened and why that is how I got hooked.
That's cool. All right, Josh. So tell me about your experience, when you started, how you got hooked.
I was never really a stranger in grappling because of my background with judo and wrestling. I think after doing MMA, it was like the end of 2007. I wanted to do something similar to what I was already doing, and I felt like jiu-jitsu is the closest thing, because it's closest thing to what I was doing without having to get punched in the face again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I started looking through the internet, and then I found Triune Jiu-Jitsu. It was at ASD. It was called Academy of Self-Defense, and that's where I met Stan for the first time, and that's where it all began.
How was your first experience there on the mats?
Like I said, I wasn't like a stranger to it, so it felt like for me it was natural, but just some of the different moves that I would learn from like OJ or Ernest was different to me, so it was a little bit challenging, like learning like De La Hiva, learning lasso, yeah. But other than that, I think everything else was pretty easy.
Which belt was the hardest and why?
Oh, for me, I think it was my purple belt. I made it to my 4th, and then COVID happened. And you remember, like
Yeah.
me and you, Josh, would go to Salinas. But at that time, I wasn't training. I was going through a lot with my family. So being able to like train again really changed a lot. Being a purple belt, I was going through, what is that word, imposter syndrome, where I just didn't feel like I was up to par. I would roll with guys that were purple belts, and they would just completely destroy me. I would get lucky. I'd catch them here and there, but I could feel like the technical in them, Like when they're 4 stripes or 3 stripes, I just felt it. And that was like fresh when I first got it. And then when I got on my 4th, when I went out to Salinas, I was just like, man, what am I doing, dude? I don't feel like that confident at it. And I remember rolling with a white belt because, it's been like years, like 2 years or something like that. And then I just couldn't keep up. And then I remember Josh just threw me the brown belt. You remember that? And then I was like, whoa, dude, this is it. Like I had points in my time where like I just didn't want to do it. For you guys to be there, like that kind of sparked it all over again for me, brought me back to life.
That was some fun times traveling to Salinas just to do jiu-jitsu. Yeah, that was fun. The 4 of us, right? Plus Wayne.
Yeah.
We'd go down there.
Sometimes Terrence, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You guys remember Terrence, right?
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah, it was the only dojo that we had available to us that was open. So let's give a shout out to Adrian for keeping his dojo open.
Oh, Tom's Garage, too.
Oh, and Tom, too. Yeah. That was cool. That was really cool. All right. Derek, how about you? What has been your hardest belt so far? Your 4-stripe purple belt. And what do you think?
Definitely blue belt was my toughest time. I spent blue belt almost 6 years at blue belt, and I definitely believe, I know some people disagree, but I definitely believe in the blue belt blues, and everyone's definition's a bit different. When I had blue, yeah, there were fun times, but then I also felt like I was plateauing as far as what I'm learning and technique wise. And it's like, no matter how much I kept training, I'm like, what else do I need to learn at blue belt, or what's the next step? Like, what else do I have to do? I was always asking the coaches, like Josh and everyone, like what I can do to improve. And I was just confused because I just felt like I wasn't getting better no matter how much I trained. And I was like, do I need to do this, or do I need to have a different approach? And I was, I spent a lot of time reading articles on that, like what other people were doing, like when they were struggling, and try to find like relatable situations, especially during COVID, because I was also kind of worried about training for a couple months. And then after a while, I was like, I can't just sit and not do anything. Like I was really itching to do stuff. So like Mark was saying, we are going all the way to Salinas and Tom's Garage to go train, do underground things, and even getting in touch with Kiko. I was like, oh, let's find when there's underground open mats and stuff like that too. And I was like, I'll just take whatever I can and just see what else I can do. And these were the times I felt were really eye-opening as far as what I needed to work on, what I was already good at doing, and just to capitalize that. And like eventually when things started slowly opening up, I remember I had the itch to compete, and I didn't get to compete at white belt. I never stepped up for that, but at blue belt, I'd done all my competitions at blue so far. I have yet to do purple, but I just remember once COVID restrictions started lifting, I started going out of state because California didn't have competitions open yet. And I was just doing random competitions like in Nevada, and like SoCal opened up before NorCal, but I was in Vegas and Reno a lot to compete. And being that it was still restricted here in California, like not many people came out with me to compete. So I was just out there alone just to kind of like test myself and put myself out there, and definitely spent a lot of time losing and learning. I did get bronze at a few of them, but I think that's where I was finding my game a little bit and what I was struggling with. And I remember Josh told me at one point, man, you always ask so many questions after training. I was like, just do this, or oh no, you're doing okay, you just have to do this. Just the little details that he gives. But like over time, eventually things started to make more sense. But I just felt at 6 years I should have been more confident in where I was. Yeah, there were a lot of times where I couldn't train because of work or money issues or like whatever. There was a time where I was working 2 jobs and I couldn't train. So it was like very up and down time for me. So that's why I feel blue belt was the most challenging for me.
How about you, Josh? You're 3rd-degree black belt now. So what was your hardest belt, do you think?
Well, that's a hard question because I'm good at everything I do. Just kidding, I'm just kidding. No,
Dang.
all jokes aside, the hardest belt for me is a purple belt. I think because as a purple belt, I already have my own style and I'm just refining it over and over, sharpening my sword. But the most challenging, I think, being a purple belt was teaching. Because I remember Stan was just like, you got to start learning how to teach people in this belt color. So I was, oh man, how do I do that? And it was really like, it really got into my head. But I was like, okay, I'll take that challenge. So I remember one time I was at the liquor store. No, I was at a gas station and I ran into Wayne. I remember asking him like, hey, where you train at or something like that. And then he had told me he was training at Zulu. So I took that opportunity, right, to be like, I'm going to go there because there's only a few people there and I'm going to go ahead and practice my teaching. So Wayne was like my first student.
Cool. What belt was he then?
A white belt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I felt like Stan had a point, right? Like if that's the best way to really understand your style is if you can teach it.
Yeah.
That way you know that you really understand the things that you've been doing on the mats.
Yeah. What has been your biggest personal struggle or lesson through jiu-jitsu?
As a black belt now, I feel like I'm a white belt. And now I have to swim with the very high ranker guys. Some of these guys have been black belts for 10 plus years. And I'm fresh, so it's every trick I ever learned and I was able to pull on like lower rank guys. It doesn't work with the black belts.
Yeah.
And it gets even harder if they're a lot bigger too, because they know how to distribute their weight and they know how people move. It's just of it. But it keeps me going. I want to make sure they know who I am, you know? And I know that rolling with them, it will get me better. Like what Josh always says, iron sharpens iron. So I really believe black belt is like where I'm like struggling at. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Just keep on forging forward.
Yeah.
The more you roll with them, the better you're going to get.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Derek? Any lessons that jiu-jitsu has taught you during these years?
There's quite a few, but one that comes to mind is basically jiu-jitsu will teach you that you're more capable of things that even you don't think you are. You might not believe in yourself, but the stuff that you learn in jiu-jitsu challenges you to go beyond that. And a lot of people that come through here and train, they realize like they're able to do stuff they never thought they could. And once you realize that and understand how that works and like how you can apply it, like you can use it in things outside of the gym too. So it's like even something as small as like, oh, I was able to escape from an armbar. It's like, oh, I can go talk to my boss about a raise or something. You can do more than what you think you're capable of.
Yeah, it gives you courage.
Right.
Yeah. How about you, Josh? Anything that you've learned from jiu-jitsu?
I learned that I can kick ass. No, just kidding. No, definitely, yeah. Getting my black belt, just like Mark, yeah, definitely felt like a white belt again. Yeah, especially my first black belt tournament. I had to go against this guy that's been doing it way longer than I have. And man, he put me in the tightest bow and arrow choke in that comp for the first time. When that happened, I felt like, wow, there's levels to this game. There's levels to being a black belt for sure. So I agree with Mark. When I was a black belt, it taught me I'm a white belt again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it actually taught me to train more and just keep getting better.
Yeah.
That's it.
No other choices.
Yep.
We already talked about how you guys were introduced to Triune and some first impressions. What makes the Triune community different?
For me, I think it's the fact that everybody I've known that's come from here. We have some people from San Jose, but a lot of them are really from Santa Clara. Mark Herman came from Santa Clara, Tom. But yeah, just like the community that's tied into this gym. I remember I used to see Josh all the time at church, and then I would see him at a tournament. So that's what really lured me into this place. Is just the people are really nice. They're great people, very helpful, supportive. If it wasn't for this gym, like, I wouldn't know what I would be doing. I actually grew in this gym a lot as a person too. So I really feel like this gym is very special. A wonderful community for sure.
How about you, Derek?
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased because this is where I started jiu-jitsu, is at Triune, and I've been here ever since. And I've been here for a while too. Definitely what's kept me here the longest is the community. Like Mark was saying, it doesn't matter how much time you need to take off or if you move away or whatever, like you still have that connection here and you're always welcome back. People have their issues or they got work or whatever. You always have a spot back here. When I travel to other gyms and stuff, I use the community here as like a basis to kind of judge and review another place. Like,
Yeah.
a lot, and you know, thankfully a lot of places I visit have that, but then it's like a different level. Sometimes I go to these really big gyms and there's just so many numbers. Not everyone knows each other because there's so many people, and then I come across smaller ones that are similar to ours and some that are like big affiliations. So sometimes you don't always get that same feel that you get here, but I think that's something that comes over time. Once you've been coming for a while,
Yeah.
you could see like deeper into like how the community is in a school. So I think that's where I kind of base visiting other gyms. I'm looking for that same vibe when I go places.
Very cool. Okay, Josh, do you still remember the question?
Yeah, repeat
No.
the question, please.
Because you're the only one that telling me. Can you repeat that question? What makes the Triune community different?
I think what makes the Triune community different from the other jiu-jitsu communities is we have a family vibe. Like, a lot of us, like friends, even like the newer people that come in, we kind of tease, you know what I mean? Definitely a family vibe where we can just be ourselves.
Yeah.
I think other gyms, they're like just focused of the time, right? They want you to like, okay, clock in, get to work, okay, get out. But over here, it's like we come in, we do our thing, and then we even hang out. We'll hang out, we'll have fun. We even make like funny videos sometimes, right? So for me, I think that's what's different from other jiu-jitsu schools. Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
true. Let's talk about teaching. What does teaching give back to you, Mark?
I taught kids for a while for Stan, and it brought joy. Like, I remember having rough days at work and stuff, and then I always felt like when I taught the kids, because they're great, the kids are great to work with. I just remember being super stressed out, and once I see them come in with a fresh smile and ready to roll and learn something cool, and then the expressions they get when they actually do something that you taught them, and they get excited,
Yeah.
that changes my mood completely. And it's a special thing, like it's a special feeling, and I truly appreciate that.
How about you, Josh?
I agree with Mark. It brings, for me, when I teach, and it brings joy, right? Yeah, it brings joy to me when I see the kids learn a move, and then they get excited because, oh, I made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just to see the confidence grow in the kids or even the adults.
Yeah.
Really, oh wow, really gets me like, oh, I want to teach some more. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
definitely, definitely that.
Have you taught?
Not really. I know Josh has had me like lead warm-ups or something before, but I haven't really taught like a class now.
Do you think you would do so in the future?
That's up to Josh, honestly, because I was like, I want to make a good impression if I am going to do that. But I know I've gone to like different gyms when maybe an open mat and a lower belt might ask me like how I did something. And, you know, if they're able to learn from me, great. I don't think I'm a great teacher or anything, but I'll help out if they
That's
ask
the
me.
confidence part we're gonna try to get to.
Sure.
I've
Teach
been
that
asked
in
for
you
sure.
right now.
There you go. See, you're going to start teaching soon. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Now this is heavy. Derek, what does jujitsu mean to you now?
Jiu-jitsu basically to me now it's part of my lifestyle. I know some people take it real seriously, oh, jiu-jitsu's life and stuff, but I think it's more of something that is like an accomplice to my life because it helps me in more ways than one. And I just can't think of my life not doing it anymore because it's taught me so much and brought some type of balance to it. It's a good form of like stress relief, therapy. There's so many benefits in life that you get from it. And it sounds cliche, but honestly, it helps you in other ways of life, even like subconsciously. Like you're doing stuff that you learn in jiu-jitsu without even really knowing it. If you really sit down and think about it, oh, I'm using something I learned, but the mental part of it, for example. So, I mean, it's definitely become a big part of my life that way.
Okay. Josh, what does jujitsu mean to you?
Jiu-jitsu now, what it means to me is similar to what Derek was saying. Definitely, it's a humbling sport. Jiu-jitsu, to me, means the world to me. It means the world to me. So for me, I feel like I might not be like the very best at jiu-jitsu, but I for sure love jiu-jitsu more than anybody in this world. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah, that's pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah.
How about you, Mark?
I've always used it as a tool just to be able to use it in certain times where I have to face certain situations. Being confident about what the outcome could be and knowing that you can handle certain things. I really like that about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. How has jujitsu changed you outside of the gym?
It's actually turned me into a better person for sure. When you're a fresh white belt and you feel like you're not capable of doing certain things, and I see people talk about, oh, I'm not able to do this. It could be anything, not just jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I've always been like, nah, man, you could do it, dude. Because a lot of people that come in here have zero skill.
Right.
And we have a lot of people that came in here with zero skills, but they end up being killers, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like a straight-up assassin. And I can name a couple people like Riff and like a couple of the new guys. They're really good and like technical. Like I try to hold them down and I'm just like, whoa, dude. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has it taught you outside the gym?
Humility, you know?
All right.
Being kind to people, knowing that, hey, man, I know you're not capable of this, but you'll be good at this.
Correct.
Or just practice. It's obtainable.
Anything's obtainable
Yeah.
now that you've done jujitsu.
Pretty much.
Nice. Yeah, true. Okay. How about you, Derek?
Sorry, what was the question again?
There we go. We play to Josh now.
I know,
Okay.
my bad.
How has it changed you outside the gym, jujitsu?
I think outside of the gym, it's helped me in different situations, but mainly involving high pressure. So if it's something like at work when I have like multiple deadlines or something like that, or I have to get a lot of things done, or there's an emergency, or even if I'm just playing ball and the fight's about to break out. Jiu-jitsu has really taught me to keep calm. Like I'm a pretty chill guy in general, but in high pressure situations, just remaining calm, remembering like the steps that you need to resolve the situation or diffuse it, whatever it is that you're coming across, but definitely not panicking, because here you're so focused on, you're under pressure all the time, and
Yes.
you're focused on surviving and just like escaping whatever it is that you might be up against. And that same thing applies outside of the gym.
Okay, Josh, how about you?
What was the question?
You did that on purpose.
No, I'm like really serious.
Oh, shit. I thought you were just joking. How has it changed you outside the gym?
Jiu-jitsu has given me like confidence and the calmness, because like I said, growing up I was wild. No one could tell me anything. So for me, I think jiu-jitsu gave me that confidence and calmness to control myself, right? Yeah, jiu-jitsu teaches you to control people and submit them, but then sometimes you got to control yourself and submit yourself too, right? When I got heated, I didn't think. I did, and I thought about it after. So now I think that's what jiu-jitsu has given me, self-control. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's see.
I like that. Submit yourself.
Submit yourself.
when you said
Boom.
that,
He just locks himself. And it's like,
he's like,
Calm down.
You can give yourself a choke. Okay. So, do you have any advice for beginners or someone thinking about joining the gym?
yeah, just come in. You're here as a student. You're here to learn. You're here to make friends and build a community. And there isn't anything to shy away from, because it's a group of people who genuinely want to see whoever comes in succeed. And I feel like if you're going to come in and be a part of a team, just come in and enjoy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to gain from doing jiu-jitsu. You're gaining long-time friendships. Like what Derek said, you'll see people coming up, but you'll always remember the names in this gym.
yeah, I definitely agree with Mark. I think with other practitioners, the thing I hear the most with people like regrets or whatever is that they wish they started earlier.
True.
And I'm definitely one of those people. And my advice would be, if you've been considering it or wanted to try it, to just do it. Because like I said, many others, is that we all wish we started earlier. And it's a lot of it's, oh, I want to get in shape first. I want to do some other martial arts training so I could just jump into it, or money or whatever it is. Like, just do it, because like we all said, is we all wish we did it earlier.
Josh, a new white belt. Give them advice.
My advice is just, yeah, it could be scary because it feels like your first day of school and it's something new. So understand where they're coming from, the nervousness and what do I do, you know what I mean? But for me, my advice is just to, not just a beginner, but also some people that have already been doing it, say they're a blue belt or whatever. I feel like be coachable is my advice.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times they come in and then they think they know a lot. And
Yeah.
even if you do know a lot, it's just you have to learn to be humble and just be coachable. Yeah. You're here to be a student, not to be a substitute teacher, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should give those people the opportunity to teach. Right? That's what
Yeah.
That'd be cool. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's go into some funny stuff. So, any odd or weird experiences, funny things that happened to you on the mat?
Oh, yeah. You remember when Henderson broke his toe? And you call him toe jam? Yeah. Dude, oh man, that got me dying. My girlfriend was on the side. She was laughing too, dude. You came in to save the day, though. That was awesome.
That was cool. Yeah.
Popped
Just
it right back in. And it just went. You know?
nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah. I was so lucky. You could do it. Hey, you go do it.
Oh, yeah. That was fun. But the nickname was funny, Toe Jam.
Toe Jam. He took it like a champ, dude. Like
He's awesome.
Yeah. It didn't even look like it was broken, but it was broken.
Yeah, that was funny. All right. Anything else? Josh, anything funny to
Oh,
happen to you on the
man.
mat?
I guess it's fun. Yeah, there's one time I was rolling, and then I got stacked to where my legs was like over my head,
Yeah.
and then I farted. It was funny because there was like these new girls that were there just trying to check it out, and I just laid a fat one. I laid a fat one, and then I still had a serious face like. You know what I mean? Nothing happened. Like,
Like, wow.
you know what I'm saying? It happens though. You know what I mean? That top pressure shit.
Yeah. Neon bellies get me going.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Derek? Anything funny happened to you? Any crazy?
I can't think of a personal thing that happened to me right off the top, but I do remember slightly being involved where I had my friend Jeremy come try a couple trial classes, and you guys all know Big J. He's a big dude, right? Big jolly guy. He's a lot of fun to be around. And he came to try jujitsu for a couple months, actually. And I remember Josh likes to have us do the situational drills and stuff like that. And I remember at the old location, I think we're doing like some type of guard pass drill. And I remember it's like, oh yeah, you guys start on the bottom, and then the person on top try to pass or try to get out of that. I think it was like half guard or something like that. And Jeremy's a newer guy, being that he has a big size, he definitely had that weight advantage. So I remember one time I think I was paired up with him, and he was trying to stack me, like he's putting it like his shoulder, and he's a big dude, so he's really heavy. So I remember he's putting his shoulder in my face to do like a stack pass, right? And he still had his hips a little too high. So I know when he tried to step over instead of doing a knee cut, and I remember when he lifted his foot up, I hooked his like ankle and swept him over that way, and he has this wardrobe malfunction quite a bit. So like when he falls over, sometimes his pants come down, so you just see like this big like bare ass come out when he's being swept. So
I think I see that. Yeah, I think I see that.
Yeah, that's funny.
so it was
hard to.
yeah. So it was
That's
it just
funny.
kind of
What do they call the Filipino when you pants them? Brown out or something like that?
yeah. So
Yeah,
shout
I'm
out
saying.
shout out Jeremy for coming to try it. But yeah, I remember that happened, and a couple of times in like judo class. I think that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Plumber's cracks. Anything else? Okay. Let's see what else we can talk about.
So did those girls ever come back? The ones that checked out the class?
I know, right?
Probably not. We go, these guys spark too much.
No. They're like, what is this jujitsu?
Yeah. All you guys are all Filipino.
Yeah.
Come from the same area where you guys all grew up together. Yeah, that's pretty tight. So do you want to do an impression?
Filipino?
Yeah.
This is like
You
easy one.
always
You sure
do it.
all the Filipinos know this one. They point with their lips. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
that's true.
You know what I mean? It's like, or they'll say stuff like, what is it? Turn off, or like, well, how do you they say that? Turn off the light or something? I forgot.
Close the
light.
lights.
Close the light.
Oh, they say
Yeah,
close the lights?
Yeah.
I like the Mamser one.
Yeah.
Mamser.
Yeah.
The what?
Mamser.
Mums-
Yeah.
Sir.
And then every Filipino has an uncle boy, you know what I'm saying? Like every family Filipino party you go to, there's always an uncle boy somewhere.
Man, good
Yeah.
food.
Uncle boy.
Really good food.
Oh, we all got
Always
gout.
the food.
Y'all got gout.
Not me.
Yeah, good job, bro.
Yeah.
I got gout.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else.
Yeah,
we
you're not Filipino if you don't point with your lips.
Or pick things up with your feet.
Yeah.
Oh, man. If you had an opportunity to talk to your younger self, what would you tell him?
I would have been like, don't date that girl, bro. I would have done that, bro. My life would have been way different.
Oh, man. Go ahead, Derek.
Definitely apply yourself more, because there's a lot of things that when I got into college that I didn't know about coming from high school. And I'm like, if you would have prepared better and done this, you could have saved yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Doing that. So I know not everyone takes the college route, but when I did, and there were definitely things I could have done differently.
Yeah. How about you, Josh?
I think I would have told myself to like really focus on the school more. Like, with all the fighting and stuff, like I think that it took away from a lot of my studies.
Yeah.
So definitely, I would have said that after I like slapped myself. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about Triune?
Yeah, I want to shout out Dan, or Judah Dan.
Yeah.
He comes in every Friday. I learned a lot from him. He's always said, you only need one move. Just practice one hit and you can do a lot. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I took that very closely. And I just want to shout out to the whole Triune team as well. Josh, Wayne, Coach Stan, Phil, and of course, you're lucky. Thank you for having us here. We truly appreciate you giving us this time and giving us a voice to tell our story.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh?
Thank you to everyone that comes to Triune that is willing to learn from me, and thank you for being coachable.
Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I echo what they said. Thanks for being where I got my start and being like a home ever since. And just so you guys know, is I always take Triune with me. All the gyms I visit around the country, and people always ask, "Oh, where are you from?" And it's, "Oh, I train at Triune." And of course, we're such a small school. A lot of people haven't heard of us, but then I have to put them on game because they're like, "Oh, where's that?" It's like San Jose. And they always assume it's Coyotes or AK or one of the bigger gyms, but no, we're a small, independent, nonprofit gym, and I hold it down. So
Yeah.
yeah, gotta represent.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? Anything that we didn't cover or that you'd like to say?
Wasn't there a question about like
I know on the email there said something about quotes.
Oh, yeah. I have a quote. I got a quote that I want to say. Mine's sink or swim, right?
Sink or swim?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
It means that, of course, you're not going to want to sink, right? You're going to want to swim. I remember my cousin telling me this because she was in the military. And she's not that type of girl, like, where she's like a girly girl, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She joined the military to go to college. And she just told me straight up, like, before she got sent out to boot camp and everything, and I didn't see her for a long time. I just asked her, like, aren't you scared? And she was like, nah, dude, sink or swim. And I just carried that everywhere. I
Good
went to,
example.
you know?
Yeah, that's a good quote. Now Derek's looking up his quote right now.
I didn't have one apparently, so I'm like, what do I say?
I'm still trying to think. What's the question though?
If you have a motivational quote that you live by or a message.
So if I have a motivational quote, you want to go first?
I do.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have
Well,
one.
Yeah.
it's something that I heard a long time ago and stuck with me till this day. And it's get better every day for the rest of my life.
Nice.
I have another one.
Go ahead.
I like this one a lot. Every way, every day, we are getting better.
That's the kid's quote.
That's the kid's quote.
But you didn't even do it right.
I know, right? How did you sing it? My bad. Turn that one on.
We're going to get Adrian in here to say it. Little Adrian.
Little Adrian. Yeah.
How about you?
I don't really got any,
Yeah.
You're like, nah.
I need to
don't
be
need-
more
Yeah.
inspirational.
The reason why I like that
I'm
that
very
saying,
inspired.
like for me, that saying that I heard, it goes like if people are going to comp, like for me, you'll take an L in life or in sport, but you got two options: you can quit or you can get better.
Sure.
So that's that quote. When I heard that, like that stuck with me. Get
Yeah.
better every day for the rest of my life.
Cool. There you go. All right, guys. I want to thank you guys for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's been fun getting to know you guys on a deeper level. And you guys are great friends and great practitioners and excellent role models. So keep it up and thank you for being on the podcast.
And thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Check.